Okay, we're continuing in Derech Hashem. We're still on Vav that we were last time. Now, Vav has a small little piece at the end of it, but it's really a whole discussion. That's why I left it for now. So let's just read it. It says, Nimtza, we see, and the Ramchal is now summing up or summarizing this perek. But it gets very interesting and deep. There's 6 basic principles that we talked about. They are Amitat mitziuto yitbarach shemo, the truth of his existence, may his name be blessed. And again, we said that it means the realness of his existence, that he exists really, and everything else doesn't exist as real as he is, like a dream figure, and the dreamer is different. Then you have shleimuto, his shleimut, which is his perfection. Okay? Then you have hechrech himatzeo, which is the necessity of his existence, which we talked about mukhrach. We're going to repeat it. And then heyuto bilti nitzle bizulato, which means he's not dependent on anything, which it says here, his absolute independence. And peshituto, his simplicity, veyichudo, and his unity, which is what we just ended off with on Vav, which was about the unity. Now, we mentioned about his, in the unity one, we said it was mukhrach that he's one. Just to say one point. We said it was necessary that he's one. But we called him mukhrach before, which was that he had to be. He couldn't commit suicide, if you remember. So we're saying 2 things. Mukhrach is that he must be, and echad means that there's only one being who can be this way. That's why they are 2 separate things. Okay, just to keep that in mind. Okay, but anyway, let's move on with the point. There are 6 things here. Now, someone wanted to suggest that it was actually... it wasn't Rabbi Kessin, it was Shmuel Kessin, which is Rabbi Kessin's son. We used to do a class together for a few years. Anyway, he had an idea here which was very powerful. He said, could it be that these 6 things that explain who Hashem is could have anything to do with our 6,000 years? And that's kind of all he said. I don't remember that we really delved into it. But then I was looking into it. And I tried to see, does it fit? Does the 1,000 years, each one fit with one of these? So, oddly enough, they do. So it turns out like this. We're going to say that, just like I said, what's coming up in the next chapter, which we didn't do, but Hashem wants to give us all these traits that he is. That's going to be the goal. It's actually the first line of the next page. So it means when Hashem was making this world, he brought out that part of himself at each 1,000th year. And he's going to help us be that on each 1,000th year in a global picture way. So I'm going to show you now how they fit. First you have his existence. His existence is the first thing. So it means he made the world. That's what he did. He made the world exist. So that's that 1,000 years, which was Adam Arishon's basically his whole life, because it was that first 1,000 years. Hashem just brought everything into existence, and people lived. There was no real punishment yet. People were sinning and do whatever you want. It's like it was just a time to be around. Hashem was just making everyone and everything, and letting everything go. It was a time of a great chesed, because chesed is that first midah. Then you have what's called here shleimuto, shleimut, which is perfection. Now we know perfection has to be earned. Perfection can't be gotten without doing action that makes you perfect, because we're made or built imperfect, and we have to be perfect. So this represents givurah, which is the next sephirah. And givurah is about where you have to work to achieve something. Also givurah, if you look at the bodily systems, the only red one, not that because it's red, but it just happens to fit also, is the muscular system. Very good, Nathan said. And the muscular system, it's not that the guy's strong, which it's also true, because givura means strength. But what the muscles do is, it provides locomotion. You move because of the muscles. Just to show that movement is what givura is all about. Meaning I can move from a point A to a point B. You see? The angels can't move. They can't move and be something more than they are. That's what it means to move. They can't be more than they are. They're stuck in a situation. But because of givura, and we work with givura in this world, we can move and become something. And what is it that we want to become? Shalem, perfect. We want to be shalem like Hashem is. You see? Now, where do you see in the second millennia that you had this? Great givura. Was Noah's flood. Meaning the people did not become shalem like they were supposed to, so they got a great punishment. But it was supposed to be where they would have been shlemim. And then they would have gotten the Mashiach at that time. You know, Noah would have been like Moshe, would have been the Mashiach of the time. And it said Leketz Yamin also back then. So you see how shlemut, whether it's working or not, this is what what is supposed to be happening, the itinerary of the second millennium, you see? Then comes the third word, is Hechrech himatzeo, which is the necessity of his existence, that he must be. And this is such a beautiful idea. Listen to this now. We said Hashem must be, he can't go anywhere. And he's gonna pin that on us somehow. So how did he do that to us in the third millennium? Or millennia. Very good, Avraham Avinu. Once you had Avraham Avinu all the way to Matan Torah, the Jews were now saved. Will never be extinct. Because we now have the Torah, we have punishments if we go out of line. Hashem says, you'll now always be my people. You know, in Noah's time, there was a chance, it was like all in the air. A person could be there or not be there based on his actions. It was a very scary time. Once Abraham came onto the scene and did what he was supposed to, you know, with Yitzchak and Yaakov, Avinu, all of our fathers, and Bnei Israel, and all till Matan Torah, there was like a certain guarantee in creation that now made us like, we are not going to go anywhere. We have like a hechrech mitziut now. You see, so Hashem is bringing his trade into the world at that millennia. Look how interesting what the world is about. It's all about Hashem himself. The whole millennias are about Hashem and how he's giving those gifts to us. Then you have the next one, is his absolute independence. Bilti netle bezulato. He's not toleh or, again, dependent on anyone. Where do we see this in our history in the fourth millennia?
When we get to Eretz Yisrael.
Very good. And what came in Eretz Yisrael? Beit HaMikdash. That's what it is. We were independent. You know, the two Batei Mikdash was in one millennia. You know that? Right. We know that because the fourth day was the sun and the moon. And the Ramban says it represents the big Beit HaMikdash and then the smaller one. You know, you have that teaching, the Ramban, Nachmanides. So in one millennia, which is the fourth, we were independent because we were running everybody. We were running everybody, and we were the ones in charge, and people weren't telling us what to do. We were independent. So Hashem was showing us and giving us that independent nature in the fourth millennia, you see? Then you have the fifth millennia, which is Peshituto, his pashutness or his simplicity. Now, simplicity means that we're all as one, like one organism. We're all Yisrael, but we're one organism like cells in a body. And we know that we did not do that. That's why we got galut, because we did not have the Havta L'Reacha Kamocha, which would have put us all as one. You see?
We lost the brotherhood.
Right, but that's what was supposed to be, but we didn't do it. So, and then you have the last one is his unity, Yehudo, and we know in the 6,000th year, which is this one from 5 to 6, Hashem's oneness is going to come and be on the earth, like it says, he's going to be Echad, Ushmo Echad, and that's really what we're still waiting on. That's really when Yemot HaMashiach will come, where we're going to see God's unity, and we will all be one within that, attaching to Hashem, all being one because we're a part of Him. So Hashem ends up being the only thing around, which will include us.
Wow.
And just to say one more point about simplicity, Pashut, that Hashem is Pashut. So it means it was supposed to be that we should act in that Pashutness, where we're all showing that we're all one within the body of Israel. That's what it means to be one within yourself, you see? But we didn't do that. So Hashem helped us to do it by the suffering of the exile. The suffering of the exile got us together, even though it doesn't look it. But it still got us together, because every time we have tragedy, the Jews pray together and they become unified. And that's the point of a lot of times when Hashem brings tragedy. So that's really what the Galut that started. Of course, it was for 2 millennium, but it really started in the 5th. So just to show that that's about Hashem's Pashutness. And then the oneness, which comes later, is what we're still really waiting for. Even though it started at the beginning of the millennium, which is another whole story. How do we see God's oneness? I'll just throw it out. Because all through basically science and the physical world unifying, showing itself as being unified with all the scientific laws, is really the messianic light of unity in the hands of Tum'ah, in the hands of the Satan, giving it to the Goyim, but it will eventually turn over to our side. But I'm just showing you how even unity started at the beginning of the millennia. But again, I'm just saying it very quick. These are all different topics. Now, I just want to show you how in Patach Eliyahu Navi, he says a few of these points. So we read like this. Patach Eliyahu Navi Zechol Tov Amar, Rebon Almin, which is Rebon HaOlamim, really, not Rebon HaOlam, De'an Tuchad V'lab Chushban, that you're one without a cheshbon, like we said, you're one and there's no possibility of two. Antu Ila'al Kol Ila'in, you are the high of the Most High, meaning anything high, you're higher. Sitimal Kol Sitimin, anything that's Satum, which is hidden, you're hidden from that. Meaning maybe an angel is hidden from us. He's called the Satum. But he's Sitimin, I'll call Sitimin. He's hidden from all those that are even hidden. So he's the most hidden, meaning Hashem. Let machashava tifisa bakelal. There is not a thought that can grasp you at all. Now, if you remember in Derech Hashem in the beginning, he said, no one can know Hashem. And he says, En amitat mitziuto museget zulato klal. And then he says, Verak ze nodabo. Only this is known of him. And that's when he went into that he's a shalem and he's perfect. But that doesn't really mean that we know what that means. We just know how to say that he's perfect, but we still don't know what he is. So it's again the same idea Eliyahu Navi is saying. And then he goes into to say about the 10 Sefirot, which is another topic. So we're going to talk about that in another time when we read about the Sefirot and that. Now also in Adon Olam, we also say, V'achare kechlot hakol levado yimloch nora. After everything was made, he's still levado, he's alone. So that shows ein od melevado, like we said. Even after everything was made, he's still the only thing around. Of course he's the only thing around before he made anything. That's not the chidush. It's after he made everything, he's the only one around. So levado yimloch nora. He's alone and he's the one who's the king over everything. And another point we say here in Tefillah le David, which is part of the, when we say Annam, we say Tefillah le David before the Mizmor. So in that one, we say this line. Let me just find it here. We say, Horeni Hashem darkecha, ahalech ba'amitecha, yached lebabi liyirah shemecha. Listen to this, what it says. Horeni Hashem darkecha. Hashem, show me your ways. Now, teach me your ways. This is what we said Derech Hashem was all about. Darkecha. And Moshe Rabbeinu asked it, right? Hodieni. But this says Horeni. Teach me your ways. But then it says, Ahalech ba'amitecha. I will walk in your truth. Now, what does it mean to walk in his truth? It means to walk in his trueness or his reality. Like I said, when we walk and we have to think of ourselves as though he is me, really. When I walk around, I have to consider myself as though I'm nullified and I'm not here. And Hashem is really the one who is me. That's what it means. I walk in his reality, in his truth. You see, not just to be a liar. That's a separate idea. So it's showing this, that the book of Derech Hashem at the end, because Horein Hashem Darkecha is Ahalech Bamitecha, that it will teach me, the purpose of this book is to teach me how to recognize that God is really me at the end and I am really not here. And of course, when you do that, you become there and you become able to live with Hashem in yourself. So you don't disappear. You have to be willing to almost disappear in order to appear and be in real reality.